2. Molecules of life. Subtopic Carbohydrates. 1.2 Carbohydrate. The constraining outcome is state the classes of carbohydrates such as monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. This is an example of food which provide source of carbohydrates for our daily diet. Glucose, also known as simple sugar, its function as energy source, energy storage, and also to build necessary cell components. Carbohydrates composed of three elements, which is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. There are three classes of carbohydrates: monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides, also known as single or simple sugar. For disaccharides, it consists of two monosaccharides joined by a glycosidic bond in condensation reaction. And for polysaccharides, it also known as polymers of many monosaccharides joined together by glycosidic bonds through condensation reaction. Example of monosaccharide: glucose, fructose, and galactose. Example for disaccharides: maltose, sucrose, and lactose. And then the example of polysaccharides: starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Monosaccharides. Monosaccharide, also called simple sugar units or monomers, which make up all other carbohydrates, and it cannot be further hydrolyzed into smaller units. The molecular formula for monosaccharide is CH2O. Monosaccharides contain two functional groups, which is carbonyl group and hydroxyl groups. Carbonyl group attached to the carbon number 1 is called aldose sugar, and carbonyl group attached to carbon number 2 is called ketose sugar. In aqueous solutions, glucose as well as most other sugars will form a ring structure. For example, we have beta-glucose. This is a ring structure for beta-glucose. And then we have a ring structure for alpha-glucose. And then the last one, we have ring structure for fructose. So the difference between beta and alpha-glucose in terms of position of hydroxyl group at the carbon number 1. Based on the position of functional group, monosaccharide can be classified into two, which is aldoses and ketoses. For aldoses, carbonyl group located at the carbon number 1 is called aldehyde group. And for ketoses, carbonyl group at the carbon number 2 is called ketone group. For aldoses, the sugar is known as aldose sugar or aldehyde sugar. And for ketoses, the sugar is known as ketose sugar or ketone sugar. Glucose is an example for aldoses, while fructose is an example for ketoses. Other than position of functional group, monosaccharide also can be classified based on the number of carbon atom. So based on the number of carbon atom, we have three classes of monosaccharide. We have trioses, 3 carbon atoms, pentoses, 5 carbon atoms, and hexoses, 6 carbon atoms. Example for trioses sugar, we have glyceraldehyde, and dihydroxyacetone. For pentose sugar, we have ribose and deoxyribose. For hexose sugar, we have glucose, galactose, and fructose. This diagram shows the difference between alpha glucose and beta glucose. So the difference between alpha and beta glucose, for alpha glucose, the position of hydroxy group at the carbon number 1 projects below the plane of the ring. So the position of hydroxy group at the carbon number 1 is below the plane of the ring. While for beta glucose, the position of hydroxy group at the carbon number 1 projects upward the plane of the ring. Disaccharides. Disaccharides is a class of carbohydrates that form when two molecules of monosaccharide join together through condensation reaction between the hydroxy group on one monosaccharide and the hydroxy group on another monosaccharide. The bond that forms between two molecules of monosaccharide is called glycosidic bond. The binding between two sugar or two monosaccharides results in the loss of a hydrogen atom from one molecule and a hydroxy group from the other molecule released as water molecule. All condensation reactions that form disaccharide can be reversed by adding water to the glycosidic bond, also known as hydrolysis reaction. Maltose is one example of disaccharide that form by combination of two alpha glucose. So the monomer for maltose is alpha glucose, and this is the structure for maltose. So we can see that the bond that join between two alpha glucose or two monosaccharide is called alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. Why the name is alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond? Because alpha comes from two alpha glucose that serve as monomer for maltose, and the bond is joined between carbon number 1 of one alpha glucose and carbon number 4 another one of alpha glucose molecule. Sucrose formed from combination of glucose and fructose, and lactose formed from combination of glucose and galactose. Polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are macromolecules or large molecules that form when hundreds to a few thousands of monosaccharides join together by glycosidic bonds. Polysaccharides also called polymers because it forms from the polymerization of many units of monosaccharide through condensation process. Same as disaccharide, polysaccharide also can be broken down by hydrolysis into monomers or simple sugar. There are two types of polysaccharide, which is storage polysaccharide and structural polysaccharide. Starch is a storage polysaccharide that can be found in plant, while glycogen is a storage polysaccharide that can be found in animal. Starch made up of amylose and amylopectin that have differ in their structure, and cellulose is an example of structural polysaccharide.